Hi, Chef Lance Roll here, the Flavor Chef, owner of the Flavor Chef Inc. and bonebroth.com. I've been cooking as a chef for 29 years, and that brings it all the way back to 1988. So we've been working as the Flavor Chef for about 10 years, and I've had just prior to that, I had the opportunity to teach culinary school in San Diego at the San Diego Culinary Institute for about 3 years. So we have one of the first things we teach in culinary school is sort of how to use a knife, what knife to use, and how to use them properly in your kitchen, in what you're working on, in your mise en place, getting things together. So the point of this first class is to just show you a bunch of different knives and different equipment and sort of how to use them. One of the first things we're going to talk about is, again, so you see a bunch of knives down here on the table. I'm going to start from my right to my left, and this is made by Wüsthof, and they make a decent knife. German knives. There's several companies out there. There's many knives now from Japan, which we're going to get into in a second. And but this is German steel, Wüsthof. This is their Grand Prix line, an older line. This is called the slicer. This is an 8-inch slicer. Something you need for cutting. This one's a little bit flexible, so it's good for filleting fish. It's great for slicing meats. If you're slicing roast turkey at Thanksgiving, slicing long vegetables. It wouldn't be for chopping, it's more for slicing. This is your classic French knife. This is an 8-inch Miyabi. It's got a little bit of, it's basically, you can see the layers in here. So what they did is they pounded layers of metal in there to make this pretty super sharp. Now, these knives I've been going to lately are all fairly light. When I was younger, I used really heavy ones. But this has been recently sharpened as well. And it's just got a nice grip on it. And we'll talk about the grip in a second. That's pretty much an essential knife. And we have another kind of knife here as well. This is the serrated slicer. And this is actually made by Victorinox. And this was rated in Cook's Magazine a few years ago as one of the top rated serrated knives that's available. In terms of sharpness, price, quality, I've been using this knife for probably 10 years, and it's in amazing condition still. It's super sharp, and the nice thing about this thing, it's a bread slicer. It can also be used for meat. Of course, we suggest the hollow edge. That's called the hollow edge right there. And this is a serration. So when I say about serration, the main thing serration is saw. So what we want to do with a serrated knife is we want to saw. But this will also, because of the shape they design in it, you can also do some chopping as well. The next knife I have is my go-to. It's the knife I use mainly for everything I'm cutting, chopping, slicing, dicing, in terms of when I'm just using one knife in the kitchen. You'll see it's kind of dark and almost looks stained here. This is actually made of carbon steel. This is a Masahiro knife. It's probably around 150 bucks worth of a knife, so it's fairly expensive. But the nice thing, the carbon steel is this is stainless steel, and this is carbon steel. So the carbon steel colors a little bit, discolors. This is super clean, super ready to go, but it's very soft. And the soft metal sharpens up really nice. So super sharp edge. And this is also an interesting knife too, because it's only sharpened on one side. This side is flat, so it's a right-handed knife with the blade with the sharp edge on this side, and it's a Japanese-style knife with only one edge. This is our boning knife. A boning knife is going to be used, we're going to demonstrate a little later. Boning knife is going to be used on chicken and any kind of meats that you're taking bones out of. That's a little bit of an advanced skill, but we're going to show you how to simply do a chicken later. But this knife, again, this is made by Wüsthof, somewhat flexible. You can flex, you can get these in stiffer depending on what you're doing. But I have a nice flexible one. This was the Emeril Lagasse model from probably, again, 6 or 7 years ago. And this knife is good for, again, for taking bones out of chicken, for taking bones out of steak, deboning ribs, however you might want to be using that. The next thing is my classic meat fork. 1988, my first chef, Mark Strausman, came over. We were cooking some roasts, and he told me a little bit about roast cooking, but he said meat takes a fork. I've had this fork in my bag since 1988. This was made by F. Dick, a German company that makes knives. And the one thing, again, from 1988, some of my knives are fairly old. You buy a good piece of equipment, you buy a good piece of good quality anything, and it could last a long time. This knife is as good as it was when I got it in 1988, and it came out of my first culinary kit that I had, and it's awesome. This is the next piece you'll need in your kit or at your home. It's a honing steel. Now, honing is a little different than sharpening. So these knives were just sharpened by a professional, and you sharpen them when they get dull. But at home, this is the honing steel, and they make these in diamond form, and they have a bunch of different ones. This is pretty much your classic steel, and the steel is going to be used for honing your knife. Honing is just what honing does is honing just takes that. If you looked at this microscopically, you'd see all these little dimples in the edge of the knife, and what the honing does, and you have to do it about a 15 to 18 degree angle. And I do it away from myself. You see it's nice and slow over here. What that does is just pulls out those little microscopic dimples that sort of make the knife dull. And all you need to do is a few strokes on that, brings it right up to temperature. Do it with your slicer. Same motion. Some people do it this way. I'm not particularly fond of that way. I didn't learn that way the first time because this is a thumb guard for just that purpose. But I like the method, accomplish the same thing, going away from yourself, much more safer. The other thing you can do with a steel is called back steeling. Again, this knife only has one edge on one side, so if I'm going to sharpen it, just do it one way this way. So a back steeling would be when you go to the bottom of the knife. I learned this from Chef Martin Wesley in Millfleurs in 1990. Just kind of using the back end of this knife, just kind of pulling it across, called back steeling. And that will put a nice fine edge on your knife there. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to remove these knives. We'll take a quick break so I can move these and we'll go back to some cuts. All right, so we have a few convenience tools I like to have around the kitchen. The first one is the box grater. The box grater has four sides. It has a rough grating, has a regular grate, small grate, and slicer. I definitely don't use the slicer myself, but the grater is really nice to use for carrots, shredding zucchini, small grate for Parmesan cheese, things like that. If you're making a mac and cheese, you can grate on any of these three sides. It's nice to have around. This one's missing its handle, old commercial one, but very convenient tool to have around. The next one, extremely important tool, the beautiful smiley face rubber spatula. This is a high heat silicone spatula, so you can use it in cooking, turning, scraping. A lot of people have non-stick pans. You don't want to use metal in them, so this is perfect for that. Getting the dough out of a bowl, getting the last bit of your salad dressing out of a food processor bowl. The next one, really critical piece of equipment, is Delicious Peeler. Call it Delicious Peeler. I just started using it from Kuhn & Kohn. Super sharp, super amazing. You'll see how to use it in a minute. Bunch of different things you can do with it just besides peeling carrots. And then I have a fish spatula. It's also regular spatulas you can use, but I like the fish spatula with the hole. This one's got a little edge on it. So you're working out on the grill or you're working in the restaurant. A lot of chefs use this. It tends to hold the food really well. Slip under, flip things over. It's called a fish spatula. And then, of course, everyone needs a strainer. Straining things out, straining soup, straining sauces, just grabbing vegetables from the pot. You want to do some fresh herbs and that kind of thing. You need a strainer. There's 100 more tools you need, folks, but this is the basics, what we're going to use today. This is getting into a little bit of the things we're going to need in general to get started in our kitchen. Hey, I'm Chef Lance Roll, the Flavor Chef. God bless you, and remember, love is the ultimate spice.